Now, we did see Trump do pretty well with black men, particularly young black men. The Hispanic vote across the board was extraordinary for Trump, Asian vote, the migrant vote in general. But black women are probably, or they are, the strongest voting bloc for the Democrats. Would be what, 90% plus voting for the Democrats in that demographic. Do you see that changing anytime soon? Because it seems to be a fairly staunch supporter base.
You know, I hope so. You're exactly right about the problem that exists here. But I think that, for me, I've always said, if we're actually going to change the direction of the black community and rid them of their allegiance to the Democrat Party, we've got to go after black men first. Because here's the story about the black community in America. It's a very evangelical Christian community, right? Where many people view the men as the head of the household. If we can change the hearts and minds of young black men, changing an entire generation of political trajectory for the black community, then I think that we will eventually win over black women. We will eventually win over young black children who are future voters. And so, black women is definitely a challenge for us. All women have actually been a challenge for us here in the States due to the emergence of the abortion issue as such a hot button topic here. But at the same time, I think that the inroads that we've made with young black men, particularly here in the States, show us that we actually should be a little bit optimistic about what's to come.
Well, one powerful black woman is Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She's been making headlines again. She's threatened to beat down Republicans and launched into more foul-mouthed attacks against the president.
Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes, he is. He is.
CJ, how do you see Jasmine Crockett? Some are talking her up as a future leader of the Democrats. Others are less charitable. I fall into that latter category. How do you see her?
I see her as a fake and a fraud, to be quite frank with you. This is a woman who attended private schools as a child growing up. This is a woman who went to an elite law school. And she wants to act as if she is some common day, everyday hood rat. That is not actually accurate in any way whatsoever. And I think it's actually offensive. And it says a lot about how the Democrat Party views the black community in this country, that they would platform someone like this, make her change her entire way of speaking even just to appeal to so-called black voters. It's disgusting. It's demeaning. And honestly, it's indicative of what I like to call the soft bigotry of low expectations. I think the black community deserves to be spoken to just like any other demographic of people. And Jasmine Crockett obviously doesn't view us highly enough to give us that same type of respect that she would give her white supporters and white donors.
Well, talking about fakes and frauds, let's have some breaking news on Adam Schiff. This was reported on Fox News earlier today that the Democrat senator is under criminal investigation for mortgage fraud. What more can you tell me about this, CJ?
It's an insane story. This is an individual who apparently, claimed a primary residence, of course, in California, the state where he represents, albeit poorly, but also claimed another property, which, of course, amounts to mortgage fraud. What this story actually reminds us of, and to remind all of our viewers of here, is that Democrats are everything they accuse Republicans of being. They call us lawbreakers. They're the lawbreakers. They call us, completely ignorant of the rule of law. They are ignorant of the rule of law. And thank God now we have an actual DOJ that's committed to actually rooting out actual crime and fraud and abuse. And Adam Schiff, as someone who was one of the leading gaslighters when it came to the Russia collusion hoax, I'm glad to see now that he is finally being kind of examined under the spotlight, which is long overdue.
Now, CJ, before you go, the New York Post has a report today on how Donald Trump was debanked by two of America's biggest banks, JP Morgan and Bank of America. And it appears that the January 6th riot was used by the Biden administration's banking regulators and the Federal Reserve to put pressure on banks to deny service to Donald Trump. This is sinister stuff, CJ. How widespread was this?
Incredibly widespread. And this isn't just sinister. It's just downright disgusting, right? I think that when you have an entire ideology of people who are treated as second-class citizens in a country that supposedly believes in freedom of expression and freedom of speech, that is no longer the America that I know. It's not the America that I love. And I think that, there was this lie that existed for a long time that Joe Biden was going to be the centrist president, right? The centrist Democrat who would govern from the middle. everything that we learn more about this president and the way in which he conducted himself shows us to be that was absolutely untrue. He was a radical puppet who was controlled by his puppeteers and who weaponized the entire government against a class of people who did not believe as he did. And so I think that, again, investigations must ensue. We must figure out who actually called these shots to execute the weaponization of government against a private citizen, as Donald Trump was at the time, isn't just grossly wrong, but it reeks of criminality. And I think that we need to take a hard look at that and get justice where it is deserved.
CJ Pearson, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much, Rita.